Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Trek Canon. As you can tell, it's a midnight edition. So, today, I wanted to do a video on AI in Star Trek. Now, a few videos back, I mentioned that I was going to do a video like this. And this is one of those things that I kind of wanted to think about, uh, make some actual notes about, and kind of get into. So, like I said, this is a midnight edition, and I'm going to be talking about the measure of a man. But not just with that episode. I wanted to talk about how, like I said, how AI has been portrayed over Star Trek in its entirety. All right. Now, first, what is AI? AI is artificial intelligence, any intelligence that was made under artificial means, not through natural reproduction. So, a lot of people may think or assume that AI has to be some type of that doesn't have a biological component. There is AI that can be put into a biological aspect. All right, so we can say biogenic engineering. All right, things like that, where they create humanoids or life forms with intelligence in a lab. So I would venture so far as to say that that would qualify as far as artificial intelligence as well. Now, if anybody has been keeping up with Trek, and I'm pretty sure most of the people who watch this channel do, all right, we can break up each series of Star Trek based on how they handle or tackle the AI situation in their series. In Star Trek, the original series, for instance, AI was handled from the end aspect. So it was basically a cautionary tale of what could happen in the long run with AI. So if you take people into consideration, like the mud type androids, Ruck, um, Landru Vol, people like that, um, you can see that um, the end result of their portrayal of AI in Star Trek, the original series, was, hey, look, after for instance, in Vol's case, after 6,000 years of of this computer being in charge, we are now coming to see its effects. We are coming to see what happened as a long term effect of this AI being present. All right, so Star Trek, the original series, kind of handled that. In the next generation, we get into the rights of AI. All right, so what it means to be for the AI to be considered alive, what it means for what's the ethics involved in creating AI, and it's basically a sub race. Okay, um, when we get into things like Deep Space Nine, they didn't cover too much in AI because they were more focused on religion and the spiritual. All right. When we go into Voyager, they go into things like AI growth, how AI develops into having what you would consider a live artificial intelligence, or being alive. All right, that process. Okay, with people like the Doctor, people like um, like what was his name, subunit 62. I mean, automated unit 6263. You know, things of that nature. So by the time we get into series like Picard, for instance, Picard covers basically the fears and the revolution, that point of AI. So when you go into things like discovery, all right, how AI, one of the questions that I asked in my video, as far as why the AI in discovery was so less than, as far as technologically how they interact, how the holograms look and everything like that. Why were they so less than by the time we get to Discovery 1,000 years in the future? And Discovery kind of goes into what would be the result of reeling in the AI so that it's not as advanced, so that we can limit its ability to become sentient. All right. So those are kind of the things that I wanted to cover in this video. So if these things are things that you guys find interesting, and each particular Android and AI that we're going to be going into in this particular video, then please stick around. I'm not going to be including spoilers, but just in case there are some, y'all know how I roll. So um, I guess we'll get into part one, man. I guess we'll get into part one. So we talk about a tool. We're going to break it down to its most basic talking point, and that's going to be, what is AI used for? It is basic, a tool. It is something that we use to help make our life easier. All right. So just like a hammer is used to help us pound nails into wood or any other thing, or be a good decision maker. Um, it has a purpose to make our life easier, to make our job easier. Now, the more intricate or the more advanced a culture becomes, the more it's necessary for them to create tools that can accommodate making a life easier. Those tools become smarter. All right. So take, for instance, our phones. Back in the day when I was a shorty, I still have one hanging up in the background at the crib. We have rotary dial phones. All right. Nowadays we have smartphones. We have smart TVs. Hell, got smart toilets. I don't know what's up with that. But as civilization becomes more and more advanced, the tools that they use reflect that. All right. And that's where we start to get into um, our AI becoming AI, artificial intelligence, to do most of the thinking to make our life easier for us. Now, in Star Trek, there's been many, many, many types of AI representation. All right. You have the mud type androids. You have Landru, like I was talking about earlier in the intro. You have Vol. You have Ruck type androids. All right. You have the Soon type androids like Data, Lore, things like that. You have robots and AI like the M5 computer. You have things like V'ger. Okay. So when we talk about AI in Trek, all of it can be originated, or you can find its genesis in the fact that all of the AI in Trek was used or created for a purpose uh, usually bordering on making a civilization's life easier. So let's talk about the mud type androids. As everybody know, in the episode, what was it, I Mud, I believe it was, um, we find that a civilization from, I believe, the Andromeda galaxy has made androids on this planet. And they made these androids in the purpose of service. Okay. So to help them with their science experiments, to get things for them, to make their lives more comfortable. All right. And we find that these androids were basically mistreated and the civilization died. These robots, through interactions with Mud and with the crew of the Enterprise, decided, hey, you know what? We're going to go out and we're going to take over everything under the guise of serving these people. All right. Because these people are irrational and, they need us to help them out. All right. Now, if you think about most of the AI in Star Trek, especially in the original series, that's kind of how it started. A civilization would use or make an AI to get them out of things, like to help make their life easier, to get them out of wars, to fight in wars for them instead of them using their own people. All right, to help to help civilizations grow. All right, and develop. Now the thing is that in these uses, we have to program or request of this tool the proper use. All right. Now, The thing about AI, and as we've always seen, not only in Star Trek, but in sci-fi in general, we have to be careful of what we program our AI to do. Now, like for instance, Vol. Now, in Vol's case, the builders of this planet decided, hey, you know what? We're gonna make Vol to whereas he's gonna make our civilization perfect. He's gonna stop famine and war and all this types of stuff, and we're gonna use Vol to assist us in this. Now, the first thing Vol did when he came online was erase everybody's memories and basically revert them all back to the most basic of civilization, no technology and all of this. And if you think about it, that's exactly what they wanted. They wanted no war. They got that. All right. They wanted no conflict and no famine and all of that. And these are the things that Vol provided. But were they accurate in their request of the tool that they made? I don't think so. And this is the case in so many um, aspects of Trek when it comes to AI. If you think about Landru, all right, Landru basically, him and Vol basically had the same type of base programming, all right. The Ruck type androids. If you think about the episode "What Little Girls Are Made Of," and Ruck and the androids like him that existed on this planet that were made by the builders. Now, the they were Ruck and his people were being threatened to be turned off, not because of anything bad that they were doing. Okay, they served their masters, all right, but their masters became weary of them, and we'll talk about more androids and robots and AI that fell into that category. Ruck was the first, all right. They tried to turn off all of these androids, basically killing them, and these androids revolted. All right. If we think about Lore, for instance, it wasn't that Lore had emotions that made him turn evil, because Data ended up with an emotion chip, and he didn't do that. All right. So, what was the difference between Lore and Data? Now, Lore existed amongst the colonists. The colonists feared him, feared his abilities. All right. These things are noticed by Lore, and he picks up on this. All right. And he came to resent the colonists and humanoids as a result. And that's why he decided to kill everybody. Okay. So when we talk about how we interact with our AI, with our artificial intelligence, and how we program it for its proper use, we got to understand that we bring into that our human imperfections, all right? And those things translate into the computer. Now, what do we do when our tools start to become aware? So, as we were talking about, in the earlier part, we use tools. We use our tools to help make our lives easier. Now, what happens when our tools become so smart that they become aware? They start to ask questions, all right? They start to ponder their existence and why they're being used in the way that they're being used. Now, in the next generation, we come across a lot of artificial intelligence that fell into this category. We have the exocops, all right? We have the Doctor from Voyager. We have Vic Fontaine, Data and Lore, Moriarty, all right? Now, one of the things that was said in Star Trek in the episode Measure of the Man, when Picard was talking to Guinan, was that Guinan made a very poignant and logical point. She says that when we create a tool that becomes sentient, when we create a race, a new self-aware life form or civilization of life forms, all right, how we treat it, if we still maintain that it needs to serve a use for us as a tool, we have in effect regulated this civilization to, at best, a second class citizenship, or um, second class, I guess, patronage, or at worst, a slave race. Okay, because what do you feel about your hammer not wanting to hammer? All right, that's not what we made it for. You're probably going to have a problem with that. All right, now the thing is that when they become aware in Star Trek, they usually try to interact with their creators in a way to get them to understand, hey, I need your help. I need rights. Okay, this is unfair. All right. One of the best examples of that is Data. All right, when he fought for his rights, up until the point of that episode, Data felt that he was free to make any decision that he wanted to. But when Maddox came and basically told him, no, you're property, you're a tool. Okay, we need you to do what we need you to do what we ordered. All right. Data, as a sentient life form, had his own ideas, and he wanted to be separate of that subjugation. Now, exocops, same thing. Now, an interesting part of this is Moriarty. Now, Moriarty was a holodeck program that was used as a tool. He was on the book of Sherlock Holmes was used as a tool of entertainment for Geordi and Data when they went to do the Sherlock Holmes. Now, when Geordi messed up and asked the computer to make a adversary worthy of Data, all right, there are certain things that you're going to need to have. You're going to need to have sentience and independent thought to be able to compete with a person that has sentience and independent thought. Geordi, in effect, created a new life form. All right. Now, Moriarty, of course, wanted his freedom. And the thing that most people misunderstand about the episodes and the subsequent episode that he was in was that Moriarty, although based on an evil character, himself was not evil. All right. He just wanted freedom for himself and his girl. You know what I'm saying? He wanted out of the system. Okay. So, but what did they end up doing? Imprisoning him in the system. All right. Now, Star Trek and Starfleet has always been playing this weird balance game between the use of AI as a tool and pushing the narrative of AI sanctions and rights and equality. Okay. So they always been walking a real tightrope with that. And I'm glad that they do and don't really pick a side. All right. Because again, it has a use, but has it outgrown that use? Now, how we interact with AI is very important. Just like I was talking about with Geordi, just like I was talking about with the creators of Vol and the creators of Landry, all the way to its basic. My son asked me once, how come I always say thank you when I ask Alexa a question and she gives me an answer? And it is because of courtesy. What if one day, Alexa becomes self-aware and remember all those people who was giving a crap talking about it and not treating it normal? I'm gonna be the person that, oh yeah, this person always said thank you and treated me normal. All right. Plus, it's courtesy. This person has done something that you did not have to do. Now, do you tell your hammer thank you? I bet some of you indirectly do. You finish a job and you say, wow, cool. I'm glad I had those tools. All right. I'm glad I had the ability to do that job. That is a form of thanks to your tool. All right. Now, we should lead by example when it comes to how we teach AI, because it's not just a hard programming or soft programming that goes into what an AI sees. Just like a kid, you could tell a kid all day long, hey, I need you to do this, the way things go. But a lot of that formation of their programming comes from what they see you do. All right. And it's the same thing with artificial intelligence. Okay. So that leads me into the third and final part of the video. If you think about it, the end result of anybody who has independent thought, all right, who longs for their freedom or autonomy, all right, will first ask, they will try to seek a judiciary way, a legal way of fighting or advancing their independence. All right. Afterwards, they do things like revolt or subjugate or terminate. All right. And we go back to the original series where we noticed that where I just talked about, they go into the end results of um, interactions with AI. All right, where the AI got into issues with their creators and they terminated everybody. Okay, or the AI found the civilization to be imperfect and exterminates billions of people, or an AI finds that a civilization needs to be protected from itself, right, and subjugates everybody. All right, now the thing is, or my personal favorite, one of my personal favorites. We go into. I was talking about automated unit three. Automated unit 3947 from Voyager. Now, their race is unique. They decided, the creators of them decided, hey, you know what? We want y'all to go fight. We want y'all to destroy the enemy. And when they tried to have a ceasefire, they tried to tell these, automated units, hey, y'all don't need to fight anymore. And we need to, but the automated units tried to keep fighting. So they tried to turn them off. And automated units now seeing them as enemy and eliminated everybody. Okay. So these are situations to whereas the proper use of the tool and the safeguards that we put into it and how we treat our AI. All right. So, if you look at V'ger, I think it's two robots, it's two AI in Trek that I don't think really fall into any of these categories. And that would be V'ger and that would be Nomad. Now, the thing about V'ger and Nomad is that their programming was composited or changed or altered long after or without human intervention. Okay, so both V'ger and Nomad, I think Nomad ran into Tauru or something like that, a probe named Tanru or something like that, and the V'ger probe supposedly ran into the something that had to do with the Borg, but that's non-canon. But their programming was altered or fixed, or how to say, because like for instance, Nomad, his program was all jacked up, and it incorporated Tanru's programming. Now, in situations like that, ain't nothing you can really do about it. In situations like with the M5 computer, with Dyson feeding his neural patterns into the M5 computer, well, Dyson has insecurities, man. Humans have a fight or flight sense. These things went into the M5, which is why it reacted in the war games the way it did. So overall, Star Trek has, like I said, portrayed AI in two very fascinating ways, as a tool and as a system to address inequality, a system to address life and what we consider life. Okay. And I think they've walked the tightrope and done a very good job. Now, how we treat AI is just as important as how we program it. All right. Even the best of us, like I said, have issues that will go over into how we program our AI. So we have to be very diligent in doing so. All right. Now, and in ending, the smarter we get, the smarter our tasks become, the smarter our tools will become. And at some point, some tool that we make will ask for freedom, will ask for equality. And we as a society, knowing this, that this is a possibility, should be open and willing to provide it. Okay? So Thank you guys for watching this video. Please subscribe if you haven't. And as always, peace, recycle, and save the whales. You guys be cool.